All right, grown-ups, it's just our time. I love the babies, but to help you, I gotta speak my mind. This segment's here to help you grow with book reviews, lessons, and things you'll be glad to know. If your little one's restless or looking to play, send them to my other playlist. The read alouds there will brighten their day. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Teacher Lady Show. I'm Miss Erica, the Teacher Lady, your fairy godparent when it comes to sharing joyful stories and growing young minds. All this week, we are talking about holidays, diverse holidays. The goal of this week is to expand our children's minds because not everybody celebrates Christmas. And it's important for them to understand and to know that, as well as to learn about how other people or other cultures or other religions decide to acknowledge and celebrate. Now, on this episode of Behind the Book, we are going to be reviewing The Ugly Menorah by Marissa Moss. This book gives children almost like a window or an insight into Jewish culture and the true spirit of Hanukkah. So on this review, we will be going over the glows, what I think was done well, the grows, what I think could have been done differently, who this book is for, how to utilize it as a resource to have a more robust conversation with your little, and more, all in this episode of Behind the Book, where we go beyond the pages to get to the heart of the story. You ready? Let's grow. Summary in my own words. This is the story of Rachel, who visits her grandmother shortly after her grandfather passes away. It is time for them to get ready to celebrate the Hanukkah holiday, and they use a menorah as a symbol within their culture and their religion. Now, the menorah that Rachel sees, she identifies as ugly until she gets the backstory of how precious it is. So overall, it is the story of finding beauty in things that we might not automatically think are appealing, and a reminder of what matters most when it comes to holidays and celebrations. Take home message and who this book is for. There are multiple take-home messages with this story. One being to not judge something by the look of it, because there might be a backstory. You know, Rachel really started off kind of hating this menorah, and by the end of the story, she had learned this kind of like gratitude for it and appreciation, because it was something that her grandfather made truly special for her grandmother when they could not afford an alternative. And so one of the messages is everything that might automatically appear to be ugly might truly be beautiful when you better understand it. Another take-home message is the message of grief and keeping someone's memory alive. And so they speak a lot about the grandfather who passed away and how special he was, and kind of included him in this celebration. And I also thought that that was really special. So multiple take-home messages. And in terms of target age group, I would say children maybe 5 to 10 years old would be able to read this story and understand it, and just overall hold a discussion around the book, okay? Who this book is for. This is definitely a book for families that are Jewish. If your family celebrates Hanukkah, if this is part of your culture, if this is what you do, this book is a beautiful addition, because representation is crucial. And what I can appreciate about this book is that it is very focused on Jewish traditions and the Hanukkah celebration. Like, it does not shy away from that. So if that is your family's identity, I would definitely recommend getting and adding this book. I would also say this book could work pretty universally for children who are struggling with grief or missing somebody, because there are a lot of messages in this book about keeping someone's memory alive, speaking of them as if they're still there, even though they're not, and things of that nature. So I would say on one hand, like grief and just kind of keeping their memory alive. And then on the other hand, if your family celebrates Hanukkah, absolutely, you should take a look at this book. Glows, what I think was done well. The book was very focused. It was a book for Jewish people, made by somebody who was Jewish, about a Jewish celebration. There was no detour. And I appreciate books that are not created with everybody else's comfort and understanding in mind. And that would be one of my glows for this book, because it is very important. It is important for Jewish children to be able to open up a book and just understand the latkes and applesauce, understand the menorah, understand, missing someone and having them build something. Like, I just feel like connection is crucial, and that we don't always have to make everything for everybody. And this book was very focused in that sense. Another glow that I have is just the overall message that we can think something is ugly until we better understand it. I thought that piece was really well done. The last glow is that the story is really easy to understand and to follow. The word choice is very simple. It's clean. The explanation behind why Rachel is feeling the way that she's feeling makes complete sense. When you are writing for children, you want to keep in mind how you are writing and the words that you're choosing to use. And I feel like this author, who is also an educator, hit it on the head. Grows. All of my grows would be because nobody else was included. Okay. So like I said, I am not as familiar with the Hanukkah holiday or Jewish culture. So as I'm reading this book, I'm wondering, like, am I saying latkes right? I'm wondering, what does it taste like with applesauce? And what exactly is a menorah? And where do you buy one from? And how long does it? And this is not a guide to that holiday. Like, this is not, this book is not an introduction to Hanukkah. It's just not. And so I cannot make that a grow, because the book was not for me. The book was not made available to multiple children. I truly feel like when this author sat down to write this book, she had a specific group of people in mind, and she kept that focus. So therefore, I don't even feel like I'm qualified to give it a grow. Discussion points to have with your child. There are multiple ways to have a discussion. One of which is just like, why do you think Rachel changed her mind? So in the beginning of the story, she saw the menorah that was handmade and she thought it was hideous. She wanted to go buy one, and her grandmother then explains that it was special because her grandfather made it, and then her attitude changed. And so without giving away that whole answer, I would have a discussion on like what changed. Why did her perspective change around this menorah and its beauty? The other discussion that you could hold is around the actual holiday of Hanukkah. I would look it up and I would do some research, and I would hold that conversation, especially if your family does not celebrate or understand or know of Hanukkah. It is a great way to get your child invested in a celebration that they're not currently familiar with. Okay. Now, the whole point of this week is that so often we'll tell a person Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays, and that's not actually what they acknowledge and believe. And so it is important for children to understand that everybody has a different way of celebrating, of acknowledging different months or different parts of the year, so on and so forth. And I feel like using this book as a way to hold that discussion is extremely valuable. And then the last way I would take this discussion is, if your child is struggling with grief, what are some ways to keep that person's memory alive? In the book, they speak of the grandfather who had passed away as if he was still a very real part of this holiday, of their family, so on and so forth. And I would have that same discussion with my child if they are dealing with grief. So those are some of the ways that you can use this book as a resource to hold more robust discussions. Overall, it is a warm book, and it is very intentional on who it was created for, which means if it was created for you, I know that you will love it. Final thoughts. This story reminded me of what it means to keep somebody's legacy alive, to have them be close even when they're far away, and to celebrate your culture in a way that is unapologetic. Thank you so much for reading with me and for being part of this book-loving community. On Friday, we have the Teacher Lady Speaks, which is a crash course on how to raise children who are open to different cultures and different holiday celebrations, okay? If you did not know, I am also an author and an illustrator. Those books encourage something called the Empathy Library. The Empathy Library is a pay-it-forward initiative where we try to get books to children on purpose. So if you're able to do so, be sure to check out the website, go donate a book, check out the newsletter, subscribe to that, and of course, subscribe to the channel. Thank you. And until next time, remember to enjoy the moment or go be a joy in the moment. Bye.